I will be highlighting Namibia's policies on environmental policies, and then perhaps you could also infer from the presentation the importance of having statistics in place. Presentation was prepared on 99, so I'm killing this lady here for putting me on the spot, but please bear with me. We all know that in terms of Section 5 of your Statistics Act, and as well outlined by the National Statistics Systems, it is said that policies must be based, must be actually statistics based, evidence based on planning as well as decision making. So basically statistics are there to guide our policy documents. That's also outlined in your Statistics Act as well as your national statistics systems. Now, Namibia has a number of environmental policies. And I wouldn't do justice to it if I don't mention Article 95L of the Namibian Constitution, where everything basically starts. And as well, it's a landmark, I think, that we have Article 95L, although it's just a state policy. Under the Constitution, Namibia is said to be one of the few countries already to have an environmental clause in their Constitution. So basically everything else derived from Article 95L. The importance of environmental protection derives from your Constitution. And then we have policies. Now, the lawmaking process is like this. So you have policies. Sometimes ministries will come up with white paper documents, or policies rather, and then after having a policy in place, which actually guides their actions, set out strategies, they then implement or start the lawmaking process, which is drafting your legislation. For example, your Environmental Management Act. So that's how it works. Sometimes it's vice versa. But most of your environmental policies have actually, or were actually there before the laws. So for example, the Environmental Management Act of 2007, but before the Environmental Management Act, you had an environmental policy on, you had a National Environmental Assessment Policy, and then which was also or is also given or validated by your Environmental Management Act. But before that, you would see that this is a 1994 policy. We had, or we still have, your Nature Conservation Ordinance, which is a very, it dates back in 1975, if I'm not mistaken, yes. So you could see that this policy actually came after your ordinance, but before your Environmental Management Act. So sometimes policies do come before or after a law is implemented. As I said, they are merely guiding documents which guides government to actually implement or strategize better. And then we also have a policy for prospecting and mining in protected areas and national monuments of 1999. Then we have your national policy on human-wildlife conflict. All these policies were actually, or they came forth based on statistics. There was a need that to say that there's a lot of human-wildlife conflict happening. Therefore, there is a need to actually come up with a policy document in order to guide governments better to deal with or tackle human-wildlife conflict issues. And then we also have other policies in the water and fishery department, or sector rather. We have your water supply and sanitation policy of 1993. We have your national water policy, your aquaculture policy, as well as the draft of wetlands. So these are all policies, again, once more, that were guided by statistics. And we need to actually ensure that we protect our wetlands and ensure that we have clean water supply. And then in the agriculture sector, we have about 4 policies. There are also, I think, many other policies, but these are at least the ones that I am aware of. We have your national agriculture policy, the national drought policy and strategy. It dates back in 1997, but you will see that Namibia is only starting now to implement your drought policy. And this, I think, only started having real recognition. The Minister of Environment Tourism can assist me if I'm not wrong, but I think the implementation of this particular policy became more apparent 3-4 years back. And then you have your regional planning and development policy, and then the national seed policy as well. And then in the sector of the land, you have policies such as your national land use planning policy. They date back already in 2002. The national resettlement policy, national land policy, and then the national land tenure policy. All these things date back many years ago, about 10 years ago, but the implementations are only coming now. So, and then we have the last one, the climate change policy, which was recently launched just in 2011. So basically, those are some of the policies guided by your statistics, and then in line with Section 5 of your Statistics Act. So I just listed them for you guys.
Namibia has been picked to be the testing ground as far as capacity building is concerned in connection with environmental statistics in Africa. What does it mean for the country?
Okay, this came about at the 44th United Nations Statistical Committee session in 2013, where a framework for development of environment statistics was endorsed. And this means that developing countries in Africa had to start using this framework to establish environment statistics in their countries. So for Namibia, it came about as this is phase 3 of the 3 phases of the United Nations Development Account program, which started off with an e-learning program where most of African countries took part in. And at the end of that training, there was an assessment test. And based on the results of that test, countries were then picked. And it's not only on the results of the test, but also on the stages that the countries are when it comes to developing environment statistics. So Namibia was fortunate to be one of the 8 pilot countries to be picked. And this was followed by a face-to-face seminar which took place last year, September, in Nairobi, which we also took part in. So after the face-to-face seminar, countries had to be visited by the UN Statistics Division so as to assess the state of environment statistics in those countries, and also just bring together stakeholders to have a dialogue, to talk about their practices and learn from each other and see where we can work together with the Namibia Statistics Agency, of course being the official national data provider and the main statistical authority.
And why is environmental statistics important for Namibia?
And environmental statistics is not only important for Namibia, but for the whole world. And for Namibia, it's really to monitor sustainable development goals. To mention a few: climate action, life underwater, life on land, clean water and sanitation. And those are really just environmentally related sustainable development goals. So it's to monitor them and as well to make evidence-based decisions based on the statistics that we collect and produce.
Right now we're at Roofs of Africa, and there's a workshop that's underway as we speak. What is this workshop about, and why is it important, and how many days are you going to be taking?
Okay, so it's a one-day workshop, really just to bring together stakeholders to have a dialogue, to identify priority areas and see how we can work together as drivers of environment statistics in the country.
And then from this point, where do we go?
Yes, after today we are going to have office visits. So we are going to visit participants at their offices with an environmental statistics assessment tool in a form of a questionnaire, just to assess what is currently being done, what gaps exist, and what challenges they are facing. So we can see how we can work together from there and ensure that environment statistics is a success story in Namibia.